In this week's video, we're going to take a look at how the Planted Ecosphere did over the last month. Now, this video was supposed to be posted last week, but unfortunately we had to take Erica to the hospital for a number of days. She's doing well, and now she's recovering at home. We've also had the chance to wrap up the editing on the video and get it posted for you guys to enjoy. Over the last 30 days, we've left it unsealed in order to let the plants and everything really establish inside the tank itself before sealing it off. So later on in this video, we are going to be trimming down these taller plants and sealing it off. But overall, we're going to give you a look on how the inhabitants are doing as well as how the plants are doing inside of this setup. We used a method that's outlined in the book, Ecology of a Planted Aquarium by Diana Walstead. And in short, one of the major things you're doing is trying to set up a substrate that really promotes plant growth. So in order to accomplish that, we have a layer of organic potting mix at the very bottom, capped by a layer of sand in our situation, or you can also use a gravel. And we've seen that the plants so far have been doing great with this setup. The water isn't very cloudy, we don't have a lot of algae growing on things, but the plants have definitely shown quite a bit of growth. Here you can actually see that we have plants growing way up and out of the top. We're pretty happy with this method so far. It's done great when the ecosphere has been unsealed. So now, after we seal it up at the end of this video, it's going to be interesting to see how it continues to fare overall. One of the other things that we had done differently about this ecosphere compared to previous ones is instead of gathering the majority of the material from location, we more used water and sand from location to kind of seed this ecosphere with the beneficial bacteria and microinvertebrates that are on location at the lake. Now, one of the larger things we have inside of here is Charlie the isopod. We thought we only had 2 of them in there. And after I started trying to get more footage over here, we did notice that we had 2 of them even mating, and they were a little bit smaller than Charlie was initially, so they must have been in there with the addition of Charlie. So we thought it was great that we had at least 3 in there. And that's when I even noticed a tiny little baby isopod in there. And when I started getting footage of him, I could hardly even tell he was there to begin with, because his size compared to the grains of sand we have is so close, and he's almost transparent. So just seeing and knowing that there's baby isopods in here really gives me, it makes me so excited to know that they're in there. And like, I wonder if it was the same one that I saw multiple times, or if there's other ones hanging out underneath other rocks. And I just can't wait to see if maybe there's a population boom of isopods in the near future. One of the other things that we wound up adding to the tank after a couple weeks is a single red cherry shrimp. And so far, he's been doing really great. The water's been very stable, the parameters have been doing awesome. So he's been running around the tank. We've seen it hanging out around the log that's floating on top. We've seen it on the bottom, hanging out on plants, just all over the place. One of the neat things we have seen is the mushroom growing on top of the floating log. Now, at first when we walked by, we saw that there was a little bit of something growing on top, but we weren't sure what it was. And after looking at it a little while later, we realized that it was a mushroom growing out of the log. So I set up a time lapse for it. Now, this time lapse only takes 2.5 days from start to finish, and the amount that those mushroom grows it's absolutely incredible in my opinion. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's because the water or the base of the mushroom is in the water, or maybe I bumped it when I was trying to get footage of some of the other creatures inside, but the mushrooms fell over into the water. Now, it's kind of sad to see that because I was really excited to have mushrooms there, but one of the neat parts about it is that I saw the red cherry shrimp actually go up to the mushroom and start picking off parts of it and eating it. Now, it's been a couple days since that's actually happened, and he's still healthy, happy, and running around, so that hasn't been a detrimental impact on him so far. And I think it'd be really neat to see if this log continues to have more mushrooms in the future, maybe providing a slow, continuous food source, at least until it's kind of been depleted of nutrients. So that's really neat to see happening inside the ecosphere. One of the issues we had with the container itself is that we weren't terribly fond of the lid. Now, this container, I'm pretty sure is just a cookie jar you can find, and we wound up getting this one, I believe, at Walmart or Target. And the thing about the container is the lid had explicitly said on the inside, only for dry use. Now, the picture or the sticker that was on there that said that, I've since removed. But you can see in the inside of it, there is definitely exposed metal. So one of the things I had considered doing was possibly using silicone to seal that metal. But ultimately, even if I did that, this lid's not going to let any light through. And one of the priorities we want is the plants to grow well, and they need light to do that. So instead of using this lid, what we did is we took a measurement on the very top of the container itself, and we went out to try to find initially like a glass plate or something. So that way we could set it on top and then either silicone it down or some other fashion like that to keep it in place but still be able to pass light through, but still see up the container. What we wound up finding in the end was this bowl. and it just so happens that it's almost the perfect size to fit directly over the outer lip of this container itself. So it creates a nice little dome effect on top of the tank. Now, it's definitely important to have an air gap on top of the ecosphere itself. When it comes to providing oxygen into the water, water can only hold so much oxygen, and it pales in comparison to the density oxygen can have in air itself. So having that as almost like a backup reservoir really helps to kind of support and manage the fluctuations or drops in oxygen content that the water may have. And it also helps any plants that have access to the air itself. So once we realized that this bowl fit perfectly on top of it, we couldn't pass up the chance to use it. What we're going to wind up doing is putting a bead of either Vaseline or silicone right around here in order to create an airtight seal on this container. Before we do that, we are going to trim these plants in the top down a little bit, but once we do that, we're going to see how this container does once it's sealed up. So far unsealed, it has done great, and I really hope that once we seal it up that we can keep seeing that level of success into the future. Looking back on the video, I know I had said the shrimp was a he, but pretty sure it's actually a girl. And that being said, we do want your help to name the shrimp. So what we want to do is, if you leave a comment down below, whichever one ultimately has the most likes in about a week's time, we're going to use that for the name of the shrimp. We really hope you guys enjoyed the video this week, and we'll see you again next week.